It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Well, the Hogs are not going to go undefeated this year. Sad, sad day. Travel to Rutgers, take one on the chin. 28-24, the Hogs lose on Saturday. Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Monday. Mark Freeman and Emily Young here in the Cogswell Motors studio. Glad to be bringing you the latest in local, statewide, and national sports. The biggest story, of course, for us in this area right now is the fact that the Hogs lost a heartbreaker to Rutgers on Saturday. Go on the road and have a chance to win the game, especially when you get up 24-7. It's tough to lose. And you got a backup quarterback. I feel like Arkansas had the better team. I'll talk a little while later about that game in a little detail. Things I love, things I hated, some statistical looks at that game. We'll also look at the NFL, college football, and high school football here in just a little bit. We hope to have Coach Brian Rust of the Pottsville Apaches. They moved to 3-0 on Friday night. We're going to look at local sports after the first break. He is available at about 11:20 when class ends, so we're going to talk with him and switch the segments around just a little bit. But again, the Hogs blow a 24-7 lead at Rutgers, and they lose that game. Brett Bielema spoke after the game. He said basically this is one of those games you got to learn how to win on the road. You've got to learn how to win this type of game. I seem to believe, and I don't seem to believe, it's my belief, I know it, that you get up 24-7, you win the game, especially with the style of play that Arkansas wants to employ. There is very little excuse for losing this type of game. I'll tell you why I feel that way momentarily. And there are some things that, hindsight's 20/20, and when you got up 24-7, you sort of think, all right, well, I was wrong with my thoughts, but there are some things that are concerning to me. I don't understand why A.J. Derby is playing quarterback, knowing some of the things that I know from the comments that were made prior to and after the game. And it's just, it's mind-boggling to me. And I saw some things on Saturday that worried me before Coach Brett Bielema was hired. Now, I don't want to say that I'm completely off the Brett Bielema bandwagon and I'm just going to give up on the team, give up on the coaches and the players. But I'm a little upset. I'm not going to lie. And I feel like you deserve to be upset. If you are upset, then you're definitely, you have that right. I know that there are going to be a lot of people on statewide radio and on, statewide in news that will tell you, just hang on to the rope. We've heard that before, haven't we? And there are people who will tell you, everything's going to be all right, and you're not a real fan if you're upset today. And I don't believe that. I'll just go ahead and say it. I work in the media here. I cover local sports more than anything. I'm not on campus at the University of Arkansas, so I don't have the same sort of perspective that some of these guys do. I also don't have the same sort of mandate on how I cover the Razorbacks. I don't have to go and, sit in a press box and just be as stoic and silent and quiet as everybody else and not root one way. I'm going to be honest with you. I root for the Razorbacks. Okay? When they're playing and they're doing good, I'm happy. When they're doing bad, I'm mad. I saw Corey Williams, one of my friends, tweet yesterday, I'm 27 years old, and I'm still getting mad about the outcomes of games. Is there something wrong with me? And I'm thinking I'm 28, and I don't think it's slowing down for me at all. Now, I will say I wasn't so mad after this game as I have been in the past. Last year when Arkansas lost to Louisiana Monroe, now I expected Arkansas to be a little better than they were last year. So did everybody else. But I remember getting out of my house, walking out of my house, and just taking off walking. Didn't say anything to the wife, just walked because I was going to break things. I was very angry. And I remember back in the day when Arkansas lost to Tennessee, I believe it was 2002, and Jason Witten just went crazy. It was on the road at Tennessee. I was so mad. We were taking a baseball bat outside and we were just hitting stuff. We were just very, very mad. I'm not quite that mad, but I am upset at a couple things, and there are reasons for that. Listening to Brett Bielema, listening to Jim Chaney and the guys, the coaching staff talk, and hearing that Brandon Allen was nowhere near, and those are their words, nowhere near ready to play, that speaks to me that they knew he wasn't going to play this last week. They know he's probably not going to play this week. How long is this absence going to be? Now, you knew that you had a chance to win at Rutgers, and they were in the game. They were ahead for a lot of the game, most of the game. But pretty much all the game, except for the last, 5 minutes of the game, they were ahead. You knew that you weren't going to win this week. Texas A&M, I'm sorry. For those of you that thought Arkansas was going to beat Texas A&M to start the year, that was never going to happen. They weren't going to beat Texas A&M, probably not going to beat Florida in the Swamp, probably not going to beat South Carolina, definitely not beating Alabama, definitely not beating LSU either. That's 5 losses, and I knew that coming in. I was hoping for a 6-6 season, looking at the way the other teams stacked up. I thought Arkansas could get to 6, possibly even 7, if they were able to beat Rutgers, they were able to beat Ole Miss and Auburn and Mississippi State. Then they would have gotten to that 7-win plateau. But when you know that your quarterback's not close to playing, when you know, and they said this, he bruised his shoulder, and it, notwithstanding the fact that the guy hurt himself for 3 weeks diving into the end zone, to me, you're probably not going to make it through an LSU, Alabama type game anyway if you can't dive into the end zone without hurting yourself. To me, though, the questions come in about the decision to play A.J. Derby. Why? We said this a couple weeks ago. If you know that Brandon Allen is coming back this week for Texas A&M, you don't burn the red shirt on Austin Allen. But if it's going to be an extended injury, if it's going to be an injury to where he's going to miss an extended amount of time, you've got to think. You've got the second, third, and fourth quarters against Southern Miss. You've got the entire Rutgers game. You've got perhaps the entire Texas A&M game. When they said he's not even close, that just leads me to believe he's not going to play this week. That's nearly 3 games that you've got a backup quarterback to play in. Do you not think that Austin Allen could have benefited more in those 3 games than he will benefit in this redshirt season? I believe he would. I believe that this practice time, in games, in live bullets flying action, would be more beneficial to him than anything he could do with the scout team. Anything he could do during a redshirt season. So I question the thought process in playing A.J. Derby, because now whether you believe he got you beat or not on Saturday night, he was 14 of 26, had 137 yards and a touchdown, basically the numbers I expected from him. He closes the playbook a little bit on you. You had to run a fake punt, and it worked out perfectly. You had to run the little halfback pass, and it worked for a touchdown. You had to do some things wrinkle-wise to take advantage of matchups that you had because your quarterback wasn't good enough. Austin Allen's better than A.J. Derby. I don't know if anybody in the state or in the country right now who would believe you if you said A.J. Derby gave you a better chance to win than Austin Allen. So I wonder about playing him, and like I said, hindsight's 20/20, but to me, playing A.J. Derby over Austin Allen's a mistake. When you've got a guy in Austin Allen who you expect in the future to be a big contributor to your team and your success. Look at Brandon Allen last year. He had to come in against Alabama. He had to come in against Louisiana Monroe. He took his lumps in a big way. He came back to start this year, and he looked better. I know it was only 2 games and a quarter, but he looked a lot better. He looked a lot more in control. He looked like he felt like he belonged. And if you want Austin Allen to have that feeling, this was a perfect chance to get him in there. And if you knew that Brandon was going to be hurt for longer than originally diagnosed, why not play Austin Allen? That's just my only question of the day. A.J. Derby had a decent enough day, like I said, 14 of 26, 137 yards and a touchdown. His QBR, which rates quarterbacks on a scale of 1 to 100, and this is something that the NFL did. And for perspective, in the NFL, they rate you from 1 to 100. 50 is supposed to be average. So the average quarterback would have a 50. The absolute perfect game would be 100. A.J. Derby had a 35. Like I said the other day, any test you ever take, a 35 fails. It's not good. He was overthrowing receivers. He had a couple good throws. I have to give it to him. He made a throw to Hunter Henry on the corner route, rolling to the right, and he dropped it in there. It was perfect. He did that a couple times, and that was basically the only throw that he could make with any consistency was that one, and then he hit a couple guys in short pass routes, but he had a whole lot of trouble especially it seemed throwing to his left with throwing it over the head of the receiver, throwing it into the third row, throwing it to grandma. That just drove me nuts watching him have a wide open receiver and throw it over his head, or have a receiver with a window and he throws it in there a little late and gets his receiver crunched. And I know that playing time and things like that will factor in, but he's a redshirt junior. He's been in the game before. He's seen live action, and Rutgers is not Alabama by any means. So it's not like they were just coming after him and they were just doing something that he couldn't handle. He was just not very good. And I said this on Friday, and I don't want to bash players, but he was a redshirt, or he was a walk-on for a reason. He should never be on the field. And the fact that he was in the game, I feel like sort of hamstrung Arkansas. Look at the rushing stats. They had 101 rushing yards. Alex Collins, 16 rushes for 63 yards. He started his career with 3 straight 100-yard games. Jonathan Williams started his season with 3 straight 100-yard games. He only had 25 yards. Basically what happened was Rutgers said, okay, you want to run the ball. We're going to make sure you don't do that. We know that your quarterback can't throw. We're just going to play man coverage, and we're going to make you beat us with your quarterback. And Arkansas on offense was not able to do that. Now, they did some other things to get in the lead. That halfback pass was beautiful. The fake punt was great. Tevin Mitchell's interception return for touchdown was wonderful. But I want to talk here in just a little bit about things I love, things I hate, and you've already heard one of the things that I hated. But there are a number of things that go into this loss, in my opinion, and I don't want to be completely negative because I do feel like there are things that Arkansas can take from this, and I feel like that Arkansas will get better as the season goes along, although the record will not indicate that. They may not win another game. I'll just be honest with you. I had them at 6 wins. Watching Auburn play LSU, I don't know that you're going to beat Auburn. Watching Ole Miss move up into the rankings, I know they're playing Alabama this week, so we'll get a better look at them. I don't know that you're going to beat Ole Miss. Mississippi State, maybe. So you're looking at 4 wins, maybe, for Arkansas this year when I was predicting 6. So by any stretch, it's going to be a rough year. The rest of the season is going to be tough, and you're about to go through a period of 5 to 6 games in a row where you got little to no chance to win. And that's never fun. So I do want to encourage fans to stay on board as far as watching the team progress and take what positives you can glean from this. But I totally understand if you're a little upset with the product you saw on the field Saturday, because as exciting as it was to see them get that 24-7 lead, it was equally as maddening to watch them blow it. And give us a call, 968-NEWS. It's 968-6397. If you want to vent, I'll let you do it. We're on the internet, too, so you can say whatever you want. No, don't do that. Anyway, we will talk a little bit more about the Hogs in our Hog Talk segment here in a little bit. Couple other things I want to make mention of before we hit the break, and we're going to come back and do our Peters Family Living Local Sports Look. But just as a little tease to the Peters Family Living Local Sports Look, the Arkansas Tech Wonder Boys won 49-7 over Southern Nazarene on Saturday. Congratulations to Coach Raymond Monica and the Wonder Boys. They go to 2-1 on the season. They travel this Saturday to Thibodaux, Louisiana, to take on Nicholls State. They've had a rough schedule so far, Nicholls State, and I would be surprised if they didn't come out with something for Arkansas Tech on Saturday. So it could be a high-scoring game. It could be a tough one for the Wonder Boys there. At 6 p.m. kick there for Arkansas Tech. You can probably go to athletics.atu.edu and watch the game. Or at least you can, if they're not streaming the game, you can at least follow the stats and keep up with the radio. If you go listen to the radio, you can listen to Sam Straisner. He's one of the best in the business at covering that game, and he will be the voice of the Wonder Boys. So you can check out the Wonder Boys on Saturday night at 6 o'clock. Congratulations again, 49-7 winners over Southern Nazarene. We're going to look at the high school football landscape. We'll look at the college football weekend that was and the NFL before we get to Hog Talk here today on the Sports Blitz. But we're going to hit our first break, and when we come back, we're going to try to have Coach Brian Rust on for you to talk Pottsville Apaches football.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. A 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
All right, we're going to take a look at our Peters Family Living local sports look right after this. We talked about the Razorbacks, and we'll get back to the Razorbacks here in a little bit, but there were some big games in the college football slate this weekend, but if you're like me, you probably saw some stuff that you're just like, these games aren't that great. This week will be a lot better. There are 4 games, including not including the Arkansas Texas A&M game that I think are going to be pretty good, and we'll break those down here in just a minute. But I would be remiss in a show full of football not to mention the fact that it's late September. It's baseball time. It's time when the baseball season and the playoff race heats up in a big way. Several teams now have already clinched playoff berths. The Boston Red Sox won the American League East, while Oakland won the West. Looks like Detroit is going to clinch the Central any time now. I'm trying to see if I don't think they have a magic number here on the standings I'm looking at, and forgive me, I don't follow baseball. In the National League, the East, the Atlanta Braves, 8.5 games clear of the Washington Nationals. They've won the National League East. And the St. Louis Cardinals trying to outlast Cincinnati and Pittsburgh in the Central. They've already clinched a playoff berth, trying to win the division as well. And in the NL West, the LA Dodgers have won the NL West, took a dip in the Arizona Diamondbacks pool, made everybody just absolutely upset, which I thought was kind of funny. So we'll follow the baseball season a little bit more regularly coming down the stretch because, like I said, I don't follow baseball all that much, and it's football season. So with that being said, let's take a look at our Peters Family Living local sports look. We mentioned earlier on some of the good games we had a couple weeks ago. 9 River Valley teams won last week. This week we had a whole lot of success from some teams, including Russellville. Got a 17-7 win over Alma. They play at Conway this week. And the Pottsville Apaches got a 28-20 win over Clinton. They've got Subiaco this week. We're joined right now by head football coach of the Pottsville Apaches, Coach Brian Russ. Coach Russ, how are you doing?
Doing great.
Well, looking forward to talking with you a little bit about your Apaches. You guys are 3-0 on the season. I've seen here on Max Preps that there are only 2 teams in the entirety of 4A who have scored more points than your Apaches. Talk about these first 3 games.
Yeah, it's been a great year so far. Our guys really, going into the season, I remember back at the end of last season and throughout the off season, we really didn't know who were going to fit the spots that we had open. We had a bunch of really good athletes graduate last year and really had some openings. And, man, we've had a lot of guys step up and really become good football players and just really, I don't know if it's out of nowhere, but, they really stepped up and did the job above and beyond so far what we expected.
Well, you just stole one of my questions. I was going to ask you, coming out and watching the last couple of years, you've had some guys, Corey Campbell and Tyler Weaver and Corey McCown, guys that you had counted on for several years, and I wondered who was stepping up to replace those guys. I was out to practice a while back, and I just watched the physicality that you guys practice with, and I watched the intensity, and I knew that it wasn't going to take too long before guys came to the forefront. But who do you have replacing the guys you lost from last year?
Well, as it started, we really didn't know, and we've got multiple guys, and that's kind of how it kind of turned out. Taylor Waddell showed a bunch of signs last year of being a really good athlete for us, and he's really stepped up as one of our running back and receiver guys, and he's a junior this year. Tanner Weaver, he was our starting fullback at the beginning, and he's kind of lost in the mix a little bit. He really hurt us a little bit last year when he got injured. He was going into the season, our starting fullback, and had a pretty good first game, then wound up he had to sit out the second game, got hurt the third game, and he's back at fullback. And he's really become a great leader and just a kid who plays hard all the time there at fullback. So he's really stepped up. And then kind of a surprise, sophomore Josh Duggar. He's about 5'6", 5'7", maybe 130 pounds soaking wet. And just had a great year in junior high last year, but really has stepped up this year and made some huge plays against way bigger guys. This past week he ripped the ball out of a 6'2", 220-pound running back and took it the other way for a touchdown on defense. So Josh Duggar's done a great job for us stepping up. And then another guy, Blaze Shrepford and Austin McNeely, all, we've kind of got 5 guys along with Michael Perry that all can make big plays for us.
That's the longest I think we've ever talked without mentioning Michael Perry. We'll talk about him here in just a minute. But as you were talking about the Duggar boys, I remember talking to Coach Garrett Hill several times last year during the basketball season, and he's talking about how mean those kids are, man. He said those guys are like bulldogs. So it's no surprise to me after watching practice and watching the way they lay a lick on somebody that they're out there able to contribute to your team. But as you mentioned, Michael Perry, Garrett Hill told me about a conversation you and him had, because Michael Perry's got a decision on his hands in the next couple months. He's going to go either play basketball or football following this school year. He could play at a number of different places. You mentioned the fact that every time he steps on the football field, he seems to be the best player on the field. Are you seeing that in the 4A, Michael Perry seems to be one of the best players in the entire division?
He really is. And that's kind of how we go. As Michael Perry goes, we go, and so thus far, everybody we've played has seen him now for a couple of years, and in our conference, all those guys are sick of seeing him. So, this is kind of his farewell tour, if you want to say that. But, everybody in our conference and that has played us knows how special a kid he is. And, as an athlete, we as coaches and our coaching staff in this school know how special he is as a student and just a person, just a great kid.
Yeah, people don't understand that. They see him on the field and they know he's a really good basketball player, good football player. They don't understand that he's a, nearly 4-point student, if not a 4.0 student, and just a really good representative for Pottsville High School. I look forward to watching him play the rest of this year. But you guys are looking at a tough conference slate this year. You've got Boonville, Dardanelle, who looks really, really good, and eventually I think they won't get their quarterback back till the week after they play you guys. Then you've also got Maumelle. You guys have got a tough conference slate ahead of you.
And that's one thing we talked about as a staff, and just talking about our conference this year. I really feel like we can send 5 teams to the playoffs, and all of them will have a chance to win first-round games, and as opposed to, maybe a couple of years early on, it felt like we were real top-heavy with Boonville and things like that, and over the years, I think everybody getting better has been pushed by each other, coaching staffs, and, we have a rivalry with a lot of those other coaching staffs, too, that, we're buddies, but at the same time, we want to beat each other as bad as we can, and, and Dardanelle is one of those teams. I got to see them in the first scrimmage of the year, and they are very, very talented team, and and that's the thing. We got to see their junior high quarterback who took over for the injured quarterback, early in the year, and last year in junior high, he's very, very good. And Boonville, just one of those teams that, as a team, can push statewide. They beat Star City last week, and everybody's pretty high on Star City, and they beat them 21-7. And I don't think they played real well. And when you talk about Maumelle, I'm not sure we could take every other team in the conference and put together an all-star team that would have more athletes on the field. When you talk about Maumelle, you talk about some really, really good athletes. And I think they're starting to believe in themselves, and they're going to be tough to deal with.
Yeah, it seems like they've like you said, in football and basketball both, they've just got a squad full of guys who can go. Well, you guys have been, for the last few years, looking back 3 years even, making progression toward winning a state championship, and, there's just been sort of a plateau. I don't want to call it a plateau because a lot of people love to get to that level, but what does Pottsville High School have to do to take that next step and win a state championship?
Well, for us, and we talk about all the time as coaches and our players, we're pretty open with them. It's one of those things, your expectations now are getting to that level of statewide competition. And, I talk about it a lot with football. It's different than you deal with in basketball and baseball, softball, and all those sports. You can get hot at the right time, and if you have a good pitcher or one good player, they can kind of carry you and get you into that state title contention pretty quick at the right time of the year. In football, you have to be good for 7, 8, 9 weeks in a row. You can't have a bad game, and that's kind of what happened to us last year against Boonville. I felt like we had as good a team as any in the state, and man, we went to Boonville and just played our worst game of the year. Had 6 turnovers. We hadn't committed 6 turnovers the entire season besides that one game, and we put ourselves in a bad position seeding-wise, and, we were down at the bottom of the bracket with, 8 other teams that could win the state championship. So, there's some luck that goes along with it, but also the preparation. We really, at this point, Michael, this is his 4th year in the system, and from where we started, to where we are now, we've really, up the level of what we're doing and being able to throw the ball, being able to run the ball, and trying to get better at that every week. So, that's what we're looking towards. That we have to be a multifaceted offense, and defensively, we have to be able to stop people.
Well, it looks like you guys are doing a pretty good job of it so far. 126 points for and 54 points against so far on the season, according to Max Preps. This week you've got Subiaco Academy, and I know that you won't ever tell your players this, but it looks like that you're going to be the better team on the field this week. How do you use this week to work toward the rest of the season? What are your goals for your team this week?
Well, for us, the biggest thing is showing up, and we've got to focus on us more than anything. Last week I felt like we didn't travel very well. We had a lot of young guys with inexperience, and at home we've looked like $1 million. But man, we go on the road and we showed up a little flat, and a little lack of energy, So this week we're going to have to get back to ourselves and concentrating on getting better from the start to the finish. And Subiaco is one of those teams that they've got one of the better athletes in the conference that, they started him at quarterback, and I'd heard he was going to play quarterback all year. He got hurt in like the second play of the Lamar game, and they had to totally change their scheme. And I saw him at the end of the Perryville game, and he came in and threw a touchdown pass to win that game for him. So I'm thinking, he had a hamstring. So I'm assuming he's going to be back this week, and it's going to make them a little bit different of a team.
Well, that's good to know. I watched I saw the Lamar score and thought, well, Subiaco's just not very good. But apparently now that they've got a player that was injured, that may change things up a little bit in that game. Well, but Coach, before we get you out of here, you got anything you'd like to say to the Arkansas Razorbacks? Anything you could help them with to just help them get over the loss to Rutgers?
Man, I tell you what, I've been in those situations. I think Coach Balaam has got a team that has really has some work to do. That doesn't. I think he's got talent, but I think they're all young, and you put yourself in a position to win a game, and I think that's what happened. And all of a sudden you find a way to lose the game. And like I said, I've been in those positions as a coach, and wouldn't compare myself to him by any means, but. Just watching the game Saturday, that's really what it seemed like, man. We had a position to win, and we were striving for that win, and boom, we just made a couple of mistakes that were devastating, and they lose you the game. So, it's one of the things that you have to be patient, and as a Hog fan, you got to be patient and just realize it's going to be a couple of years till we can get to the level we want to be at.
Well, I completely understand that. This week's going to be a rough one for the Razorbacks taking on Texas A&M. Well, Coach Russ, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Good luck to your Apaches. Ready to go watch you guys play Dardanelle. That's going to be our game of the week whenever that game comes around. Looking forward to it. Thank you for your time.
All right, bud. Appreciate it.
That's Coach Brian Russ, the Pottsville Apaches head football coach. They got a good team over there in Pottsville. Michael Perry and the gang looking good. I do appreciate that he didn't, immediately bring up Michael Perry. He's got a lot of guys, and I do a bad job about just making it the Michael Perry show in football and basketball and everything. But he's got a good team around him. Coach Russ does a really good job over there with those guys, just taking Pottsville from where they started. Their program just started 10 or so years ago, and now they're competing for state championships every year. Already won a basketball state championship. They've done a really good job over there with Pottsville schools, and Coach Rust has been a big part of it with the football program. So we look forward to following them throughout the rest of the year, and I'm definitely looking forward to that Pottsville-Dardanelle game here in a couple weeks. Good luck to the Apaches this week hosting Subiaco Academy. We mentioned Dardanelle. They got a 22-15 win over Clarksville Friday night. They traveled to Dover this week. Dover had a tough one against Lincoln. We'll spare you the score, but the Dover Pirates fell to Lincoln on Friday night. Clarksville lost at they lost to Dardanelle, and then they're playing at Alma this week. Atkins got a 26-13 win over Two Rivers in our featured game of the week. You can go read that story by Ryan Smith at rivervalleyleader.com. Atkins plays Cedarville this week. Heard this weekend that Cedarville is looking very good this season, so that's going to be a tough one for the Red Devils, who look to go to 4-0 on the season. Two Rivers is traveling to Horatio this week. They're 3-1, looking to go to 4-1 this week. Is the Two Rivers Gators. The Lamar Warriors 42-0 winners over Western Yale County. They're 3-0. Now they take on Lavaca this week. It's going to be a tough test for them as well. That's a brutal conference that Atkins and Lamar are in. They've got Paris, Cedarville, Charleston, and they've all got to play one another. So it's going to be a tough test there in the 3A. We mentioned Dover. They're playing Dardanelle at home. Danville got a 28-7 win over Bigelow. They're traveling to Charleston this week. Speaking of that conference, Danville's in there as well, and they're 2-1 on the season. And they travel to Charleston this week. They get the Ty Story show. He and his team are just incredible, beating up on bigger classification schools in the non-conference. And then Hector got a 36-8 win over Marshall. They travel to Western Yale County this week. And as we mentioned, Russellville got a 17-7 win over Alma. Big day from the skill position players. I think Cody Jones threw for 290 yards, had a touchdown pass to Tony Jones, his first as a Russellville Cyclone. Congratulations. All right, well, it's his first this year. Jalen Curtis had another big game. Coach East Temple Laws had some catches, but they get a real test this week. They're taking on Conway on the road, a big rivalry game, as the Wampus Cats and the Cyclones are going to hit it off. The last couple of years, Conway's owned this rivalry. Russellville's on the way up. Conway lost this last weekend, so they're going to be angry. Russellville's looking forward to going into Conway and getting a win. I was there a couple of years ago, and it was just a bad deal as the Cyclones came in there and got blitzed. But they're going to try their best this week to move to 4-0. The Cyclones, one of only, I think, 2 or 3 teams in all of 6A who are unbeaten so far on the year. Coach Jeff Holt doing a good job. Yes, one of 2 teams who are 3-0 in the 6A right now, and that other one happens to be Greenwood. So the Russellville Cyclones are looking to go to 4-0 on the season with a win over Conway. And we mentioned Pottsville taking on Subiaco Academy. Lots of good stuff coming up this week. That's been our Peters Family Living local sports look. We will preview those games coming up throughout the week. When we get back, we'll look at the NFL, college football, and then we'll transition into Arkansas Razorback football. I'll tell you what I loved, tell you what I hated.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville, online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
It was a wild NFL weekend, a bunch of stuff that you didn't expect to see, at least I didn't expect to see. I didn't expect the NFC East to go over again, and my Cowboys have a chance to take advantage of it this week. The Cowboys did get a 31-7 win over St. Louis. They were the only team in the NFC East to get a win. The Redskins lost to the Detroit Lions. The New York Giants just got pummeled 38-0 by the Carolina Panthers. And, of course, on Thursday night, The Kansas City Chiefs got a 26-16 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. I've got a friend who's an Eagles fan. I'm just going to go ahead and tell him. Now, I've told you guys as many times as I could, as much as you listen, that this Philadelphia Eagles offense with Chip Kelly is going to get his quarterback killed. You can't do that in the NFL and run around like you do. That read option works for so long. Ask San Francisco how it's working out for them this year. Ask me the Washington Redskins how it's working out for them right now, albeit Washington can't really run it with RG3 as much as they'd like to. And San Francisco has tried to make Colin Kaepernick more of a passer than a runner. But that Philadelphia Eagles offense, LaShawn McCoy and Michael Vick can only carry the load so much before injuries will take a hold, and they will. If Michael Vick's not hurt right now, it's just one of those things that we've said for years. If he's not hurt today, you just wait till tomorrow, because Michael Vick is an injury waiting to happen with his style and the way he runs so much. It's not going to be long before he's hurt, so it's just not going to work for him. And as we look at the NFC East, and I know a lot of people around here are Cowboys fans, so that's why I go this direction first. NFC East may be the worst division in football. I'd have to look. There may be one that's just completely terrible, but you look at the records. Washington's 0-3, the Giants are 0-3, the Eagles are, I guess, 1-2, and Dallas is 2-1. But just overall, this league is terrible. I don't see another league that's as bad. The NFC West, you've got 3 1-2 teams, in Seattle at 3-0. But then you've also, and then the NFC South, you've got Atlanta and Carolina at 1-2, Tampa Bay at 0-3, with the New Orleans Saints, at 3-0. But man, just looking at the NFC East, you've got 2 winless teams, and that's the only division in football that's got 2 winless teams out of 4. So it perhaps is the worst division in football, and the Cowboys look to be the class of that, whatever that's worth. I watched football yesterday, and I was surprised by several things I saw. One of them, the Indianapolis Colts beat down San Francisco. Could not believe that. For the first couple weeks of the year, the San Francisco 49ers beat Green Bay, lose to Seattle. You think they're coming home to Candlestick. They're going to get right against Indianapolis. And from the opening kick, Indianapolis just imposed their will on the ground, 95 yards rushing from Trent Richardson. From Ahmad Bradshaw, the first touch that Trent Richardson got on the season in an Indianapolis Colts uniform was a touchdown. So they were just all over San Francisco on the ground. I was very confused coming into this game with how San Francisco's defense, as solid as it was last year, and it seemed like you couldn't do anything on them through the air, on the ground, didn't matter, that they're giving up so many yards on the ground. Last week, Marshawn Lynch went for nearly 100 on them. The stat that he had that I saw during last week's game, between San Francisco and the Seattle Seahawks, was that Marshawn Lynch had just gone for over 100 yards against them the last 2 times before this last game, and he got near that again. So I was very surprised that San Francisco gave up the rushing yards that they did, but here they are now 1-2 on the season. Could not stop the run against Indianapolis, and the Colts get a 27-7 win. That was very surprising. I was very surprised with the way the Green Bay Packers played, and you see their frustration sort of boiling over on the sidelines as Aaron Rodgers and Coach McCarthy get into it there. They go down 14-0. They go all the way up 30-14, 30 straight points, and then they give up 2 touchdowns to lose the game. They give up, 30-14. They gave up 20 straight points to lose that game, 34-30 against Cincinnati. Just an incredible finish to that game for the Cincinnati Bengals to win that game. Like we mentioned, Dallas, the only NFC East team that doesn't just suck. Seattle, they're really, really good. From what I saw yesterday, of course, they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, who a lot of people, I know this isn't possible, but a lot of people would say that Alabama could hang with Jacksonville. Now they couldn't, but Seattle won 45-17 yesterday. I will give a head nod to Maurice Jones-Drew for getting in the end zone for my fantasy team, although it doesn't really matter. My fantasy team sucks. Seattle looking really, really good right now. I'll be doing my power rankings on Wednesday after tonight's game. You've got Oakland and Denver in Monday Night Football, so I'll see where I'll slate Denver into that top 5 following tonight's game, but my power rankings are going to look a lot different. There's several teams that are looking a lot better. The Seattle Seahawks, I don't know how you don't put them number one in the power rankings right now, knowing that Denver's got the injuries that they've got that they're going to have to deal with and the cloud of uncertainty around guys like Von Miller. Did you hear that he and some sample taker for the NFL were accused, and I guess it was sort of proven because his suspension went from 4 to 6 games, of sort of trying to undermine the drug system that the drug test system that the NFL employs, and he was trying to get around it, and basically he was going to use somebody else's urine to pass a test, and that's a big no-no in any level, and it cost him 2 extra games. But that, with the left tackle Clady being out for the year, the center, I believe Nayland, was out for the year a little while ago, and the injuries starting to mount up for the Denver Broncos, and then you've got, like we mentioned, Von Miller out for 6 games, at least 3 more games after this one with his problems. It's hard for me to count on Denver. I mentioned early on in the season, Green Bay and Atlanta out of the NFC just looking great. I thought the NFC was loaded, and yesterday the AFC goes 6-1 against the NFC, so shows what I know. I told you already, I'm just a fan like you guys are. I just try to cover things with a little better perspective because I've been a sports fan my whole life, done a lot of studying on these things, and watched a whole lot of ball. But at the end of the day, if Vegas can mess up as bad as they did yesterday and give up so much in these points in so many games, I think I should be allowed to as well. A couple other news and notes here. The New England Patriots win 23-3 against Tampa Bay. Wasn't the prettiest of games, but they got the job done. The New Orleans Saints looking really good, win 31-7. That Rob Ryan defense, they were terrible last year without a defense and without Sean Payton, and they've come back around. The New Orleans Saints looking very, very good. Minnesota just blew that game to the Browns. 3 touchdown catches by Jordan Cameron. I appreciate you, Weldon, leaving Jordan Cameron on the bench so you didn't beat me any worse in fantasy football. But one more NFL note here. The Baltimore Ravens beat Houston. Houston's been flirting with disaster for 2 weeks here, going down big and then having to come back to win. Baltimore didn't let that happen. They got a 30-9 win yesterday, a 3-touchdown convincing win as the Ravens honored Ray Lewis, and Ed Reed made his return to Baltimore. So let's look real quickly at college football right when we get back, and then we'll talk about things I love, things I hated, and the Razorbacks lost to Rutgers.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville, online at petersfamilyliving.com, or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the 4s.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Spider webs or something in here trying to get me. What the heck? Welcome back to the Sports Blitz. This is the last segment of a Monday. We appreciate you joining us. Is it crazy to anybody else that it's week 5 of the college football season already? It just seems like yesterday we were begging for football to come. And that's what happens. The football season, you beg for it to get here, and then it flies by, and then you're just like, what in the world just happened? It's gone already. Got a little bit of NFL left to look forward to, but college football, here in the next few weeks, it's going to be over just like that. So don't wish it away too fast. Last week I mentioned there weren't very many good games, I'll be honest with you. This was one of those weeks where I saw somebody tweet, this is a good time to be a good Samaritan husband, where you say, you know what, well, honey, I'll help you with whatever it is that you want to do this weekend. I was dumb enough to do that last weekend, and I missed a bunch of good games. And this week, I didn't look ahead. I didn't plan ahead, guys, and you ought to do that. Whenever you're going to help the wife with anything around the house, you need to make sure that there's not any good football on, because this week would have been the perfect week to do that. Next week, or last week would have been this week, you've got 4 good games, aside from the Arkansas-Texas A&M game that I will no longer be attending. I had plans and had tickets all lined up to go watch that game, and then I decided that I don't want to watch a massacre, and that's what I believe is going to happen on Saturday. I hope I'm wrong, but I believe that Arkansas is going to get worked over pretty good by Texas A&M. Aside from that game, you've got LSU at Georgia, which is the game of the week, and I'll get back to that one here in a minute. We'll talk about that one for just a second. Number 14, Oklahoma, traveling to Notre Dame, number 22 in the country. I expect Oklahoma to get a win in that game, if for no other reason than the fact that I don't trust Notre Dame at all. Number 21, Ole Miss at Alabama. I think Alabama's going to get right on offense, but I could see Ole Miss putting some points up too in that game, so it could be a little bit interesting. You remember a couple years ago, Ole Miss beat Alabama, and it was just a shocker, a jaw-dropper, and I don't expect that to happen this week, but Alabama and Ole Miss, and that one's going to be a fun one. Number 23, Wisconsin, got the number 1 career rusher and the number 1 rusher in the country this year as far as yards. Going to Ohio State, and the Horseshoe take on number 4, Ohio State. Braxton Miller may or may not be back, but I don't know if they've missed him. Guyton's gone crazy since he's been able to start for Braxton Miller. I picked Braxton Miller to win the Heisman. It's not going to happen now. 3 games in, he hadn't played a couple of them. So I don't know. Maybe it's Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe, just maybe, Johnny Manziel sneaks himself back into the conversation. He's going to put up the numbers to do well. I said before the season started, and I told Brad and everybody who'd listen, he'd have to put up double the numbers for me to even consider him. He's missed that first game, the first game, the first 3 quarters, or 3 of the 4 quarters in that game, and still put up huge numbers against Alabama, put up big numbers again this weekend. But Johnny Manziel, I feel like he shot himself in the foot as far as in the public's eye. So I don't know that he'll get back in the conversation, but there's nobody that's just running away with the Heisman right now. Taj Boyd was hurt and gave up a chance to put up some big numbers. Teddy Bridgewater, if they give him the Heisman with the schedule that he's playing, nobody will ever schedule anybody from now on. If they let them play in a BCS game or in the national championship game, God forbid, nobody will ever schedule anybody again. They'll just say, well, let's just go beat the crap out of everybody that sucks, and then we'll be okay. No SEC team will ever have to worry about that because they'll have to play several teams in conference. Look out for Marcus Mariota. from Oregon. They were off this week, but he's way up there in the Heisman radar, and I expect that he'll be there, especially if he plays well against Stanford. They could play them a couple times, but that's the game of the year for those guys, and everybody else they're just going to put up huge numbers against. But anyway, the LSU-Georgia game, that one's going to be really, really fun. I would say going into the game that I would favor LSU by about 1 point. If you listened on Friday, you heard that I picked Arkansas to win 28-27 against Rutgers. You go on the road, and I always want to make it closer. Arkansas was up 24-7. They lose 28-24. I knew it was going to be a close game. I tweeted on Friday that I felt like that I had a bad feeling about that game, and when you get up 24-7, I felt like it was just indigestion. But I feel like this LSU-Georgia game is sort of going to be the same way. LSU, I feel like from top to bottom is the better team, although they didn't look great in the second half against Auburn. Auburn moved the ball, put up some points, and Georgia can do that in a hurry. I think LSU's a little tougher, and I don't know that Georgia's going to stop LSU. So that one's going to be the game of the week. But as we turn the tables and look at the Arkansas Razorbacks, like I said, 28-24 loss to Rutgers, up 24-7. Things were looking good. So many different things that I liked about this game. But there were some bad things too. So let's look real quickly at things I love, things I hated. I had a couple of people who answered this as well, and I asked you to send. Jesse Masters sent one. He said, I love the fake punt and the gimmick touchdown pass from Jonathan Williams to Hunter Henry. I hated that we punted the ball with 5 minutes to go, knowing our defense had given up 2 consecutive scores. And I also love the loss. That's a little weird. Because of the Jen Bielema karma comment, that's just something that she made to a Wisconsin fan. He said this was as a taunt that was uncalled for toward the Wisconsin screw job. That was tasteless and had no class. That isn't the way of the Razorbacks. There are some people who are having those types of thoughts, and you're definitely welcome to those types of comments. So let us know what you think. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11 to noon, you can answer our poll questions, and you can get involved in the show. I ask people what their thoughts were about the game. Wayne Eastman said, I think they should have left at halftime. I'd probably been all right. Arkansas was ahead at halftime. Sam Taylor said, mental errors on 4th and 12. How can you let a receiver get behind you and then not look for the ball? That's one of the things I hated. I'll give you mine now. The things that I loved, okay, I'll start with the good because I don't want you to think that I'm just complete negative Nancy here today because I've been pretty negative on the game. I loved the fact that Arkansas opened the playbook a little bit. You saw that fake punt. That's beautiful to me. If you're going to have a rugby punter who's going to run out and, kick with either foot, that's just incredible. You're going to have an option to pass or an option to do something crazy off of it because you got to keep people honest. And for a lot of times against a good punt returner, you can neutralize them. Now, Arkansas messed up on one of them, and he got a punt return for a touchdown, but he kicked it in a spot he wasn't supposed to. But what I like about the rugby punt, and that's another one of my likes, is that the guy can punt with both feet, so he can run to one side or the other and just kick it. When you do that, you hold on to the ball longer. You let your team get down there to cover the kick. Now, what he did, the one he messed up, he rolled to the right and kicked it to the middle of the field. The guy ran to the opposite side, got everybody out of position, ran back and scored. That was a mistake. He was trying to pin him in that way, and I feel like he'll do a better job of that. I do need to shout out to Zach Hawker's 77-yard punt in the game. That was really good. That was another thing I loved. I liked the halfback pass, Jonathan Williams to Hunter Henry. Keeps people honest. If they're going to load the box with 8, 9, 10 guys and just go with the single high safety and say, all right, we're going to beat you. You're going to have to beat us with the pass. We're one-on-one with a free safety. Well, if you're going to do that, we're going to throw it over the top, and Hunter Henry's going to score a touchdown. I liked that play call. I liked some of the end-around stuff to Keon Hatcher, although I didn't like them running it the exact same way 3 times in a row to the same side of the field. You might want to switch that up, maybe run it to the other side the next time. But I liked the opening of the playbook. It showed me that as vanilla as Arkansas was in the first 2-3 games, that they have some more in the repertoire. So I liked that. I liked seeing Keon Hatcher. I liked seeing him catch the ball. He looks natural, like an athlete, and we've heard all about the speed that he brings to the table. Hunter Henry, nice to have you back. With his first touchdown as a Razorback, that was a really nice thing to have on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. And let's move real quickly, though, to the things that I hated. Okay, I've told you a little bit about the things that I didn't really appreciate from the game. The number one thing that I didn't like, and I talked about A.J. Derby earlier. I need to leave that alone because I really do hate to bash players. I didn't like the mentality of the coaching staff when you got up 24-7. It took me back to the early 2000s. It took me back to Houston Nutt. And I call it the HDN mentality, where you get a lead and you just sit on it. And you say, you know what? We don't have to score any more points. Especially whenever they return that punt for a touchdown, and it's 31-21, or it's, 24-21, what was it? 24-14 is what the score was. That you're going to have to score more points to win the game. You can't just sit on the ball. They let the air out of the ball. Momentum is all gone. Rutgers comes flying back. Gary Nova gets hot. And despite having a terrible game QBR-wise and making some big mistakes, throwing a pick six, he got hot at the end. Arkansas couldn't turn it back on. I hated the mentality. I know that Brett Bielema and Jim Chaney and those guys are not perfect, so I'll give them a break on that. But I just don't want to see that mentality take root here at Arkansas because we've had enough of that. As Razorback fans and seeing Houston Nutt do the things that he did to lose Arkansas games when they were the better team, to watch Arkansas lose to Rutgers knowing, in my opinion, that they're the better team, that one hurt a lot. Also, I didn't like the late defensive strategy. On 4th and 12, you've got Tevin Mitchell, and it may have been a miscommunication, but it seemed to me like he was there on purpose, up in press coverage on 4th and 12. The game is on the line. All they have to do is knock a pass down, and he gets burnt deep to lose the game. To give up a touchdown. It was just, to me, incredibly stupid, the defensive strategy there on 4th down. And like I said, it could have been just a miscommunication of a call, and that's what the guys on TV acted like it was. So I can give them a little bit of a pass on that. And I mentioned the rugby punt as something I loved, something I hated also, because all it takes is one little mistake on one of those rugby punts where you kick it to the wrong part of the field and you're in bad shape. I didn't like the fact that they punted. They kept punting to this guy who had a touchdown, had another one that brought them deep into Arkansas territory. Here's a newsflash, guys. If you got to put Zach Hawker in and let him punt it 70 yards down the field or angle it out of bounds, do what you got to do. But when you got Devin Hester back there, and I'm not necessarily saying this guy was Devin Hester, you don't kick it to him. You just avoid him altogether. That was just, to me, mind-boggling that he had the chance to beat Arkansas. But the biggest problem to me was that they took the air out of the ball. I know that that's what they want to do when they have a lead, but when you can feel the momentum, tangibly feel the momentum shifting, do something, trick play, do something to change that. That's why I think A.J. Derby being in the game hamstrung Arkansas there, because they didn't feel like they could do anything to stem the tide that Rutgers had going for them. I feel like Austin Allen would have made a big difference. But anyway, long story short, there was a lot of stuff that I loved, a lot of stuff that I hated from the game. This week we've got Texas A&M coming into Fayetteville. They're hoping it's sold out. They're hoping everybody will still show up. I expect Arkansas to have a bad time with Johnny Manziel. Everybody has. So he set a record against Arkansas last year, and I don't expect it to be quite as bad, but it's going to be hard to cover guys like Mike Evans. It's going to be hard to stop that run, guys like Molina, and Johnny Manziel is just a wild card. So I expect that it's going to be a tough out for Arkansas. I've just got no idea how the Razorbacks are going to stop Texas A&M this week. We'll discuss the game and we'll break it down. Maybe we'll give Arkansas some pointers coming up on Wednesday, as if they need to hear from me. We'll look at plenty more. We'll preview the high school football week, look at the NFL, recap Monday Night Football, and much more on Wednesday. We appreciate you joining us today on the Sports Blitz. For Emily Young, our producer, I'm Mark Freeman saying so long. We'll see you at 11 o'clock on Wednesday.